Welcome back to Collector Not Hoarder. This is Tom, and it has definitely been a little while since I've put out a video. I feel like I say that almost every time I make a video just because there's so much time between them whenever I do them. It's awesome for you guys that can get these things out so often, once a week, twice a week. I'm like once every 2 or 3 months. But anybody that watches, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'm sure you've been waiting on pins and needles for me to drop another video about some more 19th century baseball trade cards. It's one of my favorite things actually to collect. I kind of spread it out. I go through a lot of different types of cards and people and whatever it is I collect. But these trade cards are some of my favorites. And I've seen some videos recently talking about if you buy duplicates of cards, or if you try to upgrade cards that, you kind of bought at a lower quality copy initially and, look to upgrade it. And, I kind of actually fall into both of those categories. I like to buy duplicates of cards I love, and I like to upgrade cards, but I never have the intention of wanting to upgrade the card just because some of the stuff that I get is tough to find anyway. So I just figure, I find a copy and that's going to be the copy that I have. But, if one does pop up and it's in, better condition than what I got and it's a reasonable price, then I pick it up. I only buy stuff if I consider it a deal or a steal. I don't like to overpay, and a lot of times I don't even like to pay comps for stuff. I'm usually pretty good at finding things for really good deals, and I consider that one of my strengths, obviously, and which is what kind of helps my hobby money stretch. Some things I do spend a little money on, but I do tend to find some pretty good deals, so it makes it possible for me to pull some of this stuff off sometimes. And we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I'm gonna actually just start off with the stuff in the background there. I've actually showed pretty much everything that's sitting there right now in previous videos, but this is kind of for sake of like duplicates that I was talking about and upgrades to cards. And so these are going to kind of come into play in the background. And I'm actually going to start with the very first card in the middle here, which is this 1881 MF Tobin baseball scene card. It was an early one that I had picked up and had graded myself. And, anytime I find that card, I like to pick it up just because it's a neat little card. Super old, 1881. And it's got a fun little baseball scene on it. And typically you get your advertisement on the front or on the back. This one, it's in pretty decent condition. There's some paper issues with it on the front and on the back, but I can usually find these at relatively good prices, so I like to snag them. And it's a baseball scene I never really quite figured out. You got the little dog plowing over the boy down here. At least that's the way it kind of looks to me. You got what looks to be like a fielder out here, a guy batting, and another guy running. And the guy running always baffled me. I don't know if like his head is down and his hat's flying off, or if he just doesn't have a head. But it's a fun little scene there, and I've actually picked up a couple of these here recently. This one's a cool one. This is for a railroad ticket, and the back of it, it's got the advertisement on it. Railroad tickets at cut rates. To all points, $1 to $10 saved. It's like, whew, what a deal. What a deal. So, neat advertisement on that. And this one was actually one of the nicer ones that I've found, aside from the one that I already have. This one was pretty nice. Let's see, the back has a nice advertisement on it as well. Fairly clean for this kind of card. These ones, you can find them in rough shape and nice shape, but they're out there. They're not super rare, but I have a good eye for spotting these things, and that's why I've had so many. I've actually sold one of mine already, and actually it was John Mangini that bought it from me, and I think he bought it from me unknowingly from eBay. He had shared it in one of his videos for one of his pickups one time. But next we're gonna talk about the die cuts on the right and on the left here. Those are 1888 Raphael Tuck & Sons baseball die cuts. I bought those quite a while ago and had those graded. And recently I was able to get myself a handful more. So there are 10 of these in a set. I now have 8 of them. So I have 8 that are here, and I'll hold these up a little better so you can see them. But just to explain real quick, I have 8 of them. Those 2 that are back there are actually duplicates that are in here now. And it's actually these top 2. And what I'm gonna do is I'll probably end up selling the doubles for these, but for right now, I'm just gonna hang on to them. They are really nice little die cuts. These were actually in a scrapbook that I was able to get them out of. They came out really nice. They got nice backs to them and relatively intact. This one, he's a tricky one. You can see there's a little bit of a crease right on his wrist there, and maybe some chipping on his hat. So we'll see how these grade out, because I'm probably I want to complete the set. I only need 2 more. They are very expensive to find. If you do come across them and they're out there labeled correctly, they're pretty pricey, or at least can be on eBay. But these all look really nice. Great copies of them. And they all have the cities that they're associated with on the bottom. And the 2 that I still need, I believe I still need Baltimore and Chicago. But I have 8 of the 10 now. And you can see, like, if you're not familiar with these came all attached to each other. They were on a sheet kind of connected to each other. So what you did was you just kind of cut them apart. That's why you see these tabs on them. These guys were all attached to each other. And there's the last one. I was pleased with these and how these came out of the album. Very happy with that. And actually, let me see if I can fit these on the screen. These are a little bit bigger. Where are they at? Give me 1 second. So the most popular ones are those baseball ones here in the United States, but these things actually originated over in the UK. And I think Raphael Tuck & Sons had a shop here in the United States, and so some of these were distributed here in the US, primarily the baseball ones, and then the UK also had their shop over there. They made baseball ones over there as well, but they also had other sports. And so here's this is a scrapbook page. It's actually the page that came out of the same book as the baseball ones, but these are for soccer. I'm trying to hit it so I don't get a glare on them, but the soccer ones are actually pretty rare to find. And so this middle set here, these are actually all still connected by their tabs. If you follow me on Instagram, I know I've mentioned this before, I share a lot of this stuff on Instagram, so you've probably seen these on Instagram if you follow me there. But you can see they're all still attached by their tabs. They're just glued to a scrapbook page, and I haven't attempted to take them out yet, but the ones around the edge are duplicates of the guys there in the middle. So these are the detached ones, and these are the ones that are still attached. And these guys are actually pretty interesting. They came in a sheet with rugby players also, and it was a sheet that had 2 sets of soccer and 2 sets of rugby kind of all attached to each other. You can look them up online. There's a website that shows the full attached sheet. So all of them, there was a top set of guys and there was a bottom set of guys, and you can see these guys here in the middle, they got nice clean tops to them, so they weren't attached. But if you look at this guy, so we'll just look at him up here, he's got a nice clean head to him, and down here he's got kind of like a rougher top where his tab was. So he would have been attached to the bottom part. And then the rugby player guys were attached over this way, and they were stacked top and bottom. But these are really cool, and what's even more crazy is, this is not a magic trick, but there's just 2 more sets of soccer. So I essentially have 4 complete sets of soccer die cuts, and these are really tough to find, especially if they're going to still be attached like that. And then you got the individuals on the edges. So super happy with those. Those are really cool. Eventually I'll probably sell a set of them, but for right now they're just going to stick around with me on these pages. That was just kind of a side note. That really wasn't supposed to be part of what I was going to show today, but that was a cool addition. All right, next I'm actually going to share one of my most favorite trade cards from the 1800s, and it's this guy here. So this is an 1890 K66. So it's a coffee trade card. That's why it gets the designation of K. So it's a K66. And this one I had picked up, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago was the first time I got that one. And they're really tough to find. And they're tough to find in good condition. And so I got that one. I initially had it graded by PSA. And I think PSA's only ever graded 1 or 2 of them, and I don't know if SGC may have graded 1 as well. But that one was really rough, but I was super happy I got it. And then I came across this one about a year later. Another one popped up, and I wanted to make sure I snagged it. So I picked that one up as well. And then more recently, there was one that came up online. I shot this guy, like, it came up for auction, and he didn't have it as a best offer, but I reached out to him and be like, hey man, I'll pay you X amount of dollars for that if you want to consider an offer on it. And he said, no, I'm just going to let the auction run. And lo and behold, I ended up winning the auction. But I'm sure the guy's kicking himself because I won the auction for about 1/3 of what I offered him. And I'm not saying that that this thing is only worth what I paid for it in the auction, but it's not a relatively known card. And so there's not a lot of people out there hunting for it. And plus it's a little bit bigger. You have to get it graded in a bigger size slab. It doesn't fit in like a postcard size slab. It's just slightly too big for that. So that might be another deterrent for people. But this one is by far my nicest copy that I've had of this card. Like you can see, obviously something from 1890 is going to have some issues. And it's got them, but nothing like what those do. This one is clean. The back looks awesome. All the backs on these actually look decent. They have some staining and stuff on them, but this one looks really good. I couldn't have been more happy with that. Such a cool image, you know. Neat little guy in his red, white, and blue baseball uniform holding the bat. This set is called the Children, I think it's the Children of All Nations or Children of Nations series. And this is actually the only sports one that's represented in that set. So you have nations all around the world on the cards, but it's just something kind of unique to each nation that the child represents on it. And for this one, for America, it was baseball. So this was one that always stood out to me and I really love. So I'm happy with duplicates on this one. If I see them, I get them. I just love them. Moving on, I know I'm already 15 minutes in and I'm wasting so much time just jabbering about stuff. Another one that I have a duplicate of, and it actually isn't sitting out there. It kind of threw off the symmetry of my display there, so I didn't display it, but it's this one right here. This is a 1880s H804-38, and it says he may yet become president. This one has been referenced before. I've read that it could be in reference to like Teddy Roosevelt. So I don't know how true that is, but I can kind of see it maybe in the face or whatever, but that's just what somebody said. This is a blank back one. Nice copy. I have the other one that I have sitting here, and it's graded. I bought it raw and had it graded, but it's for Burdick Blood Bitters. And this one's been trimmed along the top and along the side. It's got a nice advertisement on the back, so it's a really nice copy. You know, nothing super crazy about it. It is authentic, evidence of trimming. But it's a nice card nonetheless. This one, you know, I'll probably end up selling this one, but I'm gonna keep this one. Everything about this one on the front looks great. So really happy with that. Let's see. Then we're gonna go to this one over here. So I ended up finding a duplicate of this. This one took me a couple years to find, and then all of a sudden, a couple months apart, I find two of them. So this one I've shown previously. It's actually a little coloring book, and there's pages on the inside that you can color, and you know, it's had a little bit done inside. I think the last time I showed this, I was just like, oh, it's never been colored in, and sure enough, I flipped to a page that had some coloring on it. So anyways, you know, it's a cool card. I bought it obviously just for the brownie on the back holding the baseball bat, and it's got a date of 1902 on it, copyright 1902, and I saw that and I had to get it. And then sure enough, another one of these things popped up, but me knowing what the other side of that thing looks like, it came up for sale like this. And this was like the cover page for it. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I think that's the same one that I have. So you started clicking through the pictures, and there it is on the back. And this one, I mean, we can stick these things side by side. You can see you got like a darker blue on this one, but the surface of this thing is so clean compared to what this one is. This one might have a little extra markings on it, some stains, some wrinkles in it. But this one looked super clean, and I actually learned something about this one that this one doesn't have, but this one does. And I wouldn't have known it unless I got this one. And it's got, you know, it's got the pictures in it. This one literally has not been colored in. So, you know, I know that for sure because I flipped through it. But this one, the last page, still has the color palette on it. This is a watercolor painting book. So that other one that showed the paint here, the color here, I actually thought that was like crayons or something like that, colored pencils. I don't know what I thought it was initially. I didn't really think paint. But this one has the color palette for the paints still in it. So that one doesn't show that. So I didn't even know that existed for this book until I got this. So this is way more complete and super cool. And I only wanted it for the brownie on the back, but I learned a lot from it after getting this new one, that it actually had a paint palette that went with it. So that was really neat. Next up is, this is an H804-12, and this is from a series called the Young Boy series. It's a 4-card set. You can see he's running down a trail here, and he's holding or he's not holding, but he dropped his bat. So it's a baseball trade card by that standard, but it does come from a set, and there are other ones in this set. It's not one of my favorites, but it is one, like, I just want like some type cards from some of these sets. So if I can find at least one to get from a set, like, I'm pretty much satisfied, especially if it's one that I'm not super keen on. I just like to find something that represents that set. And this one, it's got some paper loss, but otherwise it's a decent little card. It's got some tears, especially along the side here. And it's got a tear in it. But just a cool little card. Nice advertisement. Next, these are actually ones, gosh, I was so excited whenever I got these, and I'm not sure if the guy that I got them from watches my videos or not, but there's a guy that reached out to me on Instagram, and he said, hey, do you know anything about these? And I was just like, yeah, you know, I'm familiar with them. And I asked him if he was wanting to sell them, and he said he wasn't sure initially what he wanted to do. And then I came up with an idea for a trade, and he's a hockey guy, and I had a super old Buford's hockey trade card, which those are really nice, really hard to get and can be kind of pricey. And you know what? Since he was a hockey guy and I'm a baseball guy, I said, hey, let's do a little trade here. So we did a trade. I added some extra cash to it, but I added these two. And these are H804-13s, and they're referred to as the old style, new style. They are blank backs. I didn't have this set represented in any of my cards, so these are not duplicates. As you see, these are actually the only ones that I own from this set. But I was super happy with the trade that we did and adding these to my collection. I just kind of felt like between me and him, we got the cards with the right collectors now. He's a hockey guy, I'm a baseball guy, so I got his baseball, he got my hockey. But these things are really cool because so like I said, they're called old style, new style. And the top picture and the bottom picture, this is your old style, this is your new style. And I think what it's comparing is it's comparing how baseball was played between like the 1870s and then the 1880s. And this one's a pretty good representation of that, because I think I've read before that overhand pitching, so this one's for the pitcher, and overhand pitching didn't start till like the mid 1880s. And so it looks like this guy's throwing underhand here. So this would have been like referencing the 1870s. And then you got this guy getting ready to whip around with an overhand pitch, which, you know, wasn't legalized until the mid 1880s. So it also kind of puts a date to these, that these are probably going to be mid to late 1880s is when these came out. And this one here, I'm not quite sure like what's going on here, but this one is for the fielder. And I guess it's a dig on the new style of the fielder, because you got this old guy, looks like he's busting his ass, sweating, running around, really pushing to do his job out there in the field. And then you got this guy down here, he's just like, he's picking the daisies or the dandelions, and he's just kind of laying out here in the field. So I guess this is more of a dig on the new style, that the guys are kind of lazy, not as tough and hustling like the old guys in the 70s. These guys in the 1880s, I guess, they're just kind of saying they're little lazy guys out here in the field. But I do want to point out, whenever I very first saw this card, and I saw this card for the first time a couple years ago, and I'd been looking for him for a while, I always thought this bottom guy was lighting a cigarette. Just from at a distance, I thought that's what he was doing. And whenever I got this and I just received it, I was like, oh my gosh, he's actually looking at like a dandelion. He's not lighting a cigarette. And I don't know how old everybody is that watches my videos, but you know, I'm 40 years old. And just me seeing this guy with the dandelion out here, like, had some nostalgia that got like dug up for me. And I don't know if anybody can reference this like I can, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie that came out in 1990, like, that was the very first movie that I saw in the theaters. One of my, you know, favorite movies of all time, just because of that. And whenever it came out on VHS, I got the VHS tape. And if anybody remembers the Pizza Hut commercial that was at the beginning of that VHS tape of the little boys playing baseball, and it had him standing out in the field at the very beginning with the dandelions kind of like floating through the air. And that just like all came rushing back to me once I realized that that was a dandelion that he was holding. So stupid little side story there, but I got a rush of nostalgia out of that whenever I realized that's what he was doing. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. I believe the song's called Right Field, and it was a Pizza Hut commercial. It was like a minute long. And it had Goldberg from Mighty Ducks in it. He was the catcher that was in the video for that. So definitely cool. Love those cards. So thank you to Paul. That was the guy I did the deal with from Instagram. And I only got a couple left here, and then we'll be all wrapped up because I know I'm getting kind of long. Next one, we're out of the 19th century. I just came across this, thought it was neat, wanted to pick it up, and it was cheap. This is for Brown Beauty beans. There's actually a, let me see if we get it clear up. There's a copyright there at the bottom of the can for 1916, and it's kind of got like a gold flake paint for the label on the can. And it's just got, you know, some kids up here playing ball. It says they'll come home with an appetite. And I don't know, like, I don't think I ever craved beans whenever I was a kid, and I wanted a can of beans. But I picked this up just because I thought it was neat, kind of went along with what I had. But it's, you know, several decades newer than what I typically pick up, even though it's still 1916. But neat card that I found. And then the last ones that I got, these are from the 1916-1917 Sports of the World set. These are cool cards. I love variations, and these cards have them. I believe there's 7 back variations for these cards. And this first one is a, this is a duotoned front with a blank back to it. And some of these are tougher than others to get. They can get kind of pricey. Some people list them for outrageous prices online. But you got this one here. This is a colored version of the card. You know, obviously just generic card, no real players or anything like that. And it's a blank back colored version. And then the last one here is a duotone, but with a McRobertson's advertisement on the back. I forget if there's an order to the rarity of some of the backs and how they're kind of set up, but like I said, I believe there's 6 or 7 different variations that you can get of these cards on the backs, and then obviously you're going to throw in the duotone and the color, so you end up with a lot of combinations you could get on these things. But oh man, so that was a lot there that I kind of threw at you. I appreciate anybody that's stuck around. You know, I love when you guys watch the videos and make comments and, you know, kind of tell me the stuff that you enjoy seeing. But that's pretty much all I got for you today. I'm gonna try to put out another video here within the next week or so of maybe some baseball postcards or maybe some non-sports stuff. We'll see what I got here and kind of put together. But thank you again for watching, guys. And don't forget, there's a fine line between a collector and a hoarder. Which one are you?